Welcome back to Emerge. I'm happy to welcome the letter L to the show for the first time. Thanks for joining me. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well, pretty well. How have you
That's
been
good.
managing in these strange times?
It is very strange times indeed.
Which release have you listened to the most so far this year? If there's one that stands out.
I've listened to a heap of new music this year because so many of my friends started releasing music. It was awesome. So
Hmm.
my friend from Sydney, Chelsea Warner, released her debut single. Another friend from uni, Carly Jade, released a single. So got people everywhere releasing stuff for me to listen to. It's been great.
Nice. And what kind of music did they release?
So Chelsea kind of is very like 90s R&B kind of thing. And then Carly's music was quite pop, quite like commercial pop. And yeah.
Nice. And is there a story behind the project name, the letter L?
So the letter L originated, I used to just go by my actual name as an artist, which is Gabrielle Emery. But I wanted something a bit more catchy because every time I would say that name at a gig, no one would understand what I said. Like it was so I was like, okay, we gotta think of something that has less syllables. Like Gabrielle Emery is too hard. So I was trying to think of things with my partner, and he actually came up with this idea because a lot of my friends call me Elle, and he thought, what about the letter L? And I was like, oh yeah, that could be good. And so I have to give him credit as much as I don't want to. I do.
Of
So
course.
yeah.
Nice. And who are your most prominent influences?
My most prominent influences would definitely be Matt Corby and Meg Mac.
Nice.
Um, Meg Mac is definitely an influence vocally and with production and style, but Matt Colby, just everything he does is literally a godsend. So, yeah.
Were you big on his latest album?
I loved it. Like, that's kind of why I got more into him. I always loved his music, but his new album was just so good.
Yeah.
So,
Nice. And last week, you released your latest single, Sunrise, out into the world. What can you tell us about that track?
so this song is my very first completely self-produced track. I actually I wrote it over the summer, and I wrote it, I guess, as a I wrote it to myself, I think, because over the summer I had a voice disorder and I couldn't sing, so I had to stop teaching. So I wasn't working and I wasn't gigging, and I was just in
Mm.
this massive rut. I had just graduated uni, and I was like, "Where is my life going?" So I kind of just wrote this song to myself to remember to enjoy just living and just taking a step back, not always being busy. I've always been a really go, go, go person.
Mm.
So it was kind of nice forcing myself to have this time where I just wasn't really productive. And I ended up coming up with this track in the process. So yeah.
Cool. And did the track come together quite easily?
Yeah, I remember because basically, obviously, because I couldn't sing, I was really struggling to write things. So I set myself with a challenge of producing like a beat a day. So getting
Okay.
the samples together, making little loops like with my keyboard or my guitar, and putting things together in a session and just seeing what I could come up with. And I was sitting there one day and I came up with, I found a guitar loop that was kind of similar style to the one I ended up eventually putting in the actual track, which was actually my guitar, and basically wrote the beat. And yeah, it all just kind of came together, and I wrote the whole song in about a day or two. So yeah, it all came together
Okay.
pretty quickly for the writing perspective, and then recording and production took a little bit longer.
Yeah, for sure. And so did you not write the actual lyrics until most of the instrumentation was actually worked out?
Yeah, actually, I did. I wrote the chords and the beat, and then I wrote a bass line for it, and then I wrote the lyrics and melody, which is not a way that I usually write. It was quite interesting because it was so
Okay.
different. It was much more producery of me, I guess.
Mm. Do you think you'll go down that road again?
I think it's a good tool to be able to write in different ways because it means if I am in a bit of a rut lyrically and melodically, I have other ways to start being creative and to get everything flowing. Even if it doesn't come up with anything, it gets me starting to think about things, and then hopefully a proper song will actually come out of it.
Mm.
So
Nice. And as you mentioned a bit earlier that this was your first time self-producing, how did you find that process?
So I actually studied production at uni,
Okay.
but and I honestly found it really hard, especially for the first 2 years. Like I really liked it, but I seemed to just not get good marks for so long because it was
Same.
just really hard, guys. So I was always involved in the production side, and I always came up with the ideas and put it together, and then basically sent it off to someone and said, "Make this good," you know. And I think in my last year of uni, I just worked really hard at honing my craft in production and really working with producing as a writing tool. And my mixes started getting better; they started getting more clearer, and so I just thought, well, I might as well have a go. And
Mm.
if worse comes to worse, I'll just won't release it and it'll be fine. But I ended up, yeah, I had the confidence in myself to just do it, go for it, and yeah, I was pretty happy with how it turned out.
Nice
Yeah,
one. And so did you mix it as well?
I did. Yes,
Was that the longest process?
yes. It took quite a few weeks, and but I was really lucky. I had quite a few contacts that I know who are
Yeah, okay.
producers that I could send to them and be like, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And they would just be like, "Yeah, pretty good. Just like change the saturation on the hi hat or something," and I'd be like, "Yeah, thank you." And that kind of got me to the bit where I was finally happy with it.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
And was there a specific lesson or some advice that you learned from previous recording processes that you've taken on board for this one?
I think every time that you record a song, no matter how involved you are, I'm always quite involved in the recording process. Usually I am recording it myself. But I think every single time I record, I learn something because
Mm.
there is very little times when you'll go into, especially in a studio setting and not just home recording, something will go wrong every single time and you have to fix it no
Yeah,
matter, even if it'll be a tiny thing you've forgotten to record enable something on the desk all the way over there or whatever, but something always goes wrong and you always learn something. So I don't think there was a specific lesson, but I think I had learnt accumulated a lot of little tools to take that in with me, which
yeah,
helped me to do a bit better.
that's the way.
Yeah.
And what actually attracted you to self-recording? Was it just that you wanted to experiment or you wanted full creative control?
I am very involved with my songwriting from start to finish. I gave my band members parts pretty much, and I said, obviously you can play around with it a bit, but like this is what I want. I don't just kind of say make something up. So
Mm.
I really wanted to be there kind of from the start to make sure I had the right sound on the bass, or everything sounded right from the recording process, because I knew that it would mean once I got to the mixing process, my life would be a lot easier because I would already be somewhat happy with it and I wouldn't be
Yeah,
having to change a heap of things. So yeah, I find it easy if you are going to self-produce at least to be present during the recording, because like of the other parts, obviously not your parts, you'd have to be there. But I think that helps a lot when it comes to the production process later on.
yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
And is that do you think you want to work in self-producing a bit more in the future?
Yeah, I think I definitely will. I'm actually starting to collaborate with some other people as well and do some production, like co-production with some people, which is cool. So I think I'm definitely going to keep down the producer pathway.
Nice. And
Yeah.
has your writing process changed much since your debut single?
Yes. When I first released my single, that song that I wrote for my single I was 17, so that was a while ago
Ah,
now.
okay.
And it was like I still love that song, but I definitely wrote differently back then because I had kind of just started learning guitar. I had just bought my first guitar, and I kind of had more of a folk rock style. So I always just got lyrics and melody and the chords kind of all down in one hit. And now I kind of have all these tools with studying production where I can take inspiration from a lot more areas, so I
Mm,
can develop a more interesting and more mature sound because I can take things from lots of different areas, if that makes sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
cool. And just moving on to some more broad random questions now.
Cool.
If you could write the soundtrack or score to any film, television show, or video game, what would you pick and why?
So I actually used to write orchestral compositions. I used to do,
Perfect.
yeah, when I was in high school, I used to write for short films. It's a great
Oh,
hobby of
okay.
mine. Back then, I always used to do suspenseful, creepy horror kind of things.
Of
But I
course.
think I would do like James Bond or a spy kind of movie. So it could be really
Okay.
suspenseful, but a bit, I could introduce some jazz, get
Mm,
a bit of groove happening. Yeah.
nice. Nice. Do you have a go-to cooking record at the moment to help inspire?
Moment, I've been mainly playing my vinyls while
Nice.
cooking. So that's really old jazz and classical records
Ah,
usually.
okay.
Just, yeah, bring out my nerd side while I'm cooking. um,
That's the way. If you had to name one artist or a specific record that has made the biggest influence on you, either musically or personally, who would you
yeah,
name?
I would definitely say, well, it's a cover technically, but it's very different.
Hmm.
Meg Mac's cover of Grandma's Hands by Bill Withers. It's
Okay.
an awesome track, and it's kind of what inspired me to start producing because it was a song I was listening to in first year uni when I had to do production as an elective, and it inspired me to write a single that I released last year, Through the Night, and explore this really dark, soulful electronic thing.
Hmm.
And it's so cool, and it's so great. It's so angry and belting, and it's just awesome. It's a great record. So I think definitely that one.
Sweet. Do you have any recommendations for anyone in isolation looking for entertainment?
So I have two things to say to this. I have been doing a lot of random things that I'm not good at. So I've been doing
Okay.
painting, and I cannot do art at all. But no one's going to know if I
People
can't.
keep bringing
So
up painting.
yeah,
The last
yeah,
couple of people I've talked to.
yeah. Do things that you aren't good at because
Yeah.
no one's going to see you fail. So would
Good
recommend
point.
doing anything like that. And also, I'm about to put together an isolation edition music video for my new track Sunrise.
Okay.
So if you bought at home, feel free to send in a 15-second video of you dancing or doing your favorite isolation activity in time with the song, and you could be featured in the video.
Perfection.
Yeah.
Nice. And what else can we expect from the letter L in the not too distant future?
I do have another single pretty much getting close to finished, which
Cool.
is exciting. It's actually a song that I wrote about 3 years ago now, but it's finally seeing the light of day, hopefully.
Okay.
And yeah, I have a lot of songs getting close to ready to go. So definitely a lot coming in the not too distant future.
Sweet. And so, why has this track taken so long to get right?
I think this is a track that I needed to sit on for a while. When I first wrote it, I liked it, but I didn't like it as much as the other songs I was writing then.
Mm,
And what I've done over the last 3 years is develop it and make it so much more interesting. It started with just like a single guitar loop that I made and some very basic like percussion that I just put in with MIDI, and now it's got layers of R&B vocals, it's got jazzy chords, it's got chromatic walking lines, so it's wild now. So
jeez.
yeah, so I think it needed time to develop as I did, I guess, with my
Yeah.
musical style. So yeah.
Okay. Nice. Keen to hear it.
Yeah.
And lastly, if you only had a few words to describe sunrise, which few words would you use?
I find these questions so hard, honestly.
Yeah, it's not popular.
Oh,
I've
oh my goodness.
asked it at the end of pretty much every interview I've ever done.
Yeah.
But
I guess
it's
I
stuck
can.
around.
Yeah, that's okay. I think I'll describe how I would like it to be for people.
Sure.
I'd like it to be a fun and happy song, but also a nice reminder to just take like life a little bit less seriously and just enjoy. So I
Yeah.
don't know, chill and happy and stuff.
Wise words.
Yes.
Nice one. Thanks for joining me, the letter L. It's a pleasure to have you
No
on the show
worries. Thank
finally.
you. Yes, thank you.